The stranger arrived 10 minutes before I walked down the aisle. He didn't sit with the guests. He didn't sign the book. He didn't even take off his coat. He simply stood beneath the old oak tree outside the chapel and stared directly at my mother. I noticed him because my mother dropped my grandmother's pearl bracelet when she saw him. My mother never dropped anything. "Mom?" She bent down too quickly. "I'm fine," but when she stood, all the color had vanished from her face. I looked through the window again. The man was still there. Late 60s, maybe 70, gray hair, dark suit, a thin scar across his left cheek. "Do you know him?" My mother grabbed my wrist, not gently. "Emily, listen to me." "What?" "No matter what happens today, do not speak to that man." I laughed because I thought she was being dramatic. Then I saw tears in her eyes. "Why?" She looked toward the church doors. "Because if he tells you why he's here, your wedding may not happen." 5 minutes later, the music started, and while my father walked me down the aisle toward the man I loved, I saw the stranger slip quietly into the back row. My mother saw him too, and for the first time in my life, I watched my mother look afraid of someone. "My name is Emily Carter. I was 41 when I married Daniel Hayes. It was my second chance at the kind of life I had once stopped believing in. My first marriage had ended 6 years earlier. No dramatic affair, no screaming match. Just two people slowly becoming strangers while still sharing a mortgage. After the divorce, I promised myself I would never marry again. Then I met Daniel. He was 45, divorced, calm, funny without trying, and the kind of man who remembered how I took my coffee after hearing it once. His weakness was that he hated conflict. Daniel could negotiate million-dollar contracts at work. But if two people he loved were arguing, he would rather apologize for something he hadn't done than choose a side. Sometimes that made him kind, sometimes it made him impossible to trust under pressure. My mother, Margaret, adored him. My father, Thomas, respected him. That mattered more than I liked to admit. My parents had been married for 46 years and were the couple everyone used as proof that marriage could survive anything. My mother was organized, elegant, and fiercely protective of our family's reputation. That was her weakness. She could forgive almost any private mistake as long as nobody outside the family found out. My father was different. He was warm, generous, and stubbornly loyal. His weakness was loyalty itself. Once he loved someone, he defended them long after they deserved it. Growing up, I thought those qualities made my parents strong. At my wedding, I began to wonder whether they had simply made them very good at hiding things. The ceremony was beautiful, at least everyone told me it was. I barely remember it. I remember Daniel smiling when I reached him. I remember my father's hand shaking as he gave me away. And I remember the stranger in the last row watching my mother instead of watching me. When Daniel placed the ring on my finger, the stranger lowered his head. When the minister pronounced us husband and wife, he stood before anyone else. Then he walked out. I should have let him go. Instead, during the reception, I went looking for him. That was my weakness. I could forgive uncertainty. I could not leave a question unanswered. And the first person who tried to stop me was my mother. I found her behind the reception hall near the catering entrance. She was smoking. My mother had quit smoking 23 years earlier. "Who is he?" She crushed the cigarette beneath her heel. "Today is your wedding day. I know what day it is. Then go enjoy it." "Mom." She looked past me. My father was standing in the doorway. The moment he saw her face, his expression changed. "You saw him," my mother said. My father said nothing. That silence frightened me more than an answer. "You know him too?" Dad stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "Emily, not today." I stared at both of them. Why does everyone keep saying that? My mother crossed her arms. "Because some things don't belong at a wedding." "Then why did he come?" Neither answered. Before I could push harder, Daniel appeared. He glanced between us. "Everything okay?" My mother smiled instantly. It was almost impressive. Perfect. I looked at Daniel. There's a man here my parents know, and neither of them will tell me who he is. Daniel's face barely changed, but I noticed a small tightening around his eyes. You know something? No. Too fast. I stared at him. Daniel, I don't know him, but... Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. That was what he did when he wanted time to invent a softer version of the truth. He came by the venue yesterday. My stomach tightened. What? I asked for you. My mother closed her eyes. I turned on her. You knew that? No. Daniel continued. He said his name was Robert Vale. My mother whispered, God. It was the first name anyone had given me, Robert Vale. I repeated it. My father looked suddenly tired. What did he want? I asked. Daniel hesitated. He said he needed to speak to you before you got married. My mother stepped between us. And you didn't tell her? Daniel looked guilty. I thought he was some kind of scammer. You decided that for me? I didn't want some stranger ruining the day. I laughed once. 3 people I trusted. 3 people deciding what I was allowed to know. My mother touched my arm. Emily, please. I pulled away. Tell me who Robert Vale is. She looked at my father. My father looked down. Then she said the sentence that changed the mood of my wedding completely. He's a man I knew before I married your father. For one terrible second, my mind went exactly where she knew it would. Was he your lover? My father's jaw tightened. My mother didn't answer fast enough, and that became the first lie I believed. I spent the next hour smiling in photographs while wondering whether my mother had invited her former lover to watch me get married. It sounds ridiculous now. At the time, it felt logical. Robert knew my mother. My father hated his presence. My mother was terrified of me speaking to him, and Daniel had hidden his visit. My imagination did the rest. During dinner, I searched Robert Vale's name on my phone beneath the table. I found a retired attorney in Richmond, age 69, widower, formerly worked in family law. There was an old photograph. It was him. The scar on his cheek was visible even then. I also found something else. Robert Vale had once worked at the same legal aid office as my mother. My mother had been a paralegal before I was born. I stared across the ballroom. She was laughing with my aunt as if nothing had happened. Daniel squeezed my hand. Please don't do this tonight. Do what? Disappear into your head. You hid this from me. I was trying to protect you. I turned toward him. My mother just used the same excuse. He flinched. That was unfair. I knew it immediately. But anger is often most efficient when aimed at the wrong person. Daniel lowered his voice. I didn't know who he was. You knew he wanted to talk to me. Yes, and you decided I couldn't handle it. I decided our wedding didn't need a stranger making accusations. I froze. Accusations? Daniel realized his mistake. What accusations? He said your family had lied to you. My heart began pounding. About what? He wouldn't say. I stood. Daniel caught my hand. Emily. I looked across the room toward my parents. They were watching us now. My mother's smile was gone. I headed for the exit. Robert was standing beside his car in the parking lot, almost as if he'd known I would come. You're Emily. Yes. He looked at my wedding dress. I'm sorry. For what? For coming today. Then why did you? He studied my face for several seconds. You look like her. My stomach dropped. Like my mother? No. He reached into his coat. I stepped back. He slowly removed an old photograph. A young woman stood beside him. She was maybe 20, blonde hair, wide smile. She looked nothing like my mother. She looked like me, not a little. Enough that I forgot how to breathe. Who is she? Robert's eyes filled. Her name was Laura. I heard my mother's voice behind me. Robert, don't. He looked past me at her. You had 41 years, Margaret. My mother stopped walking. Robert handed me the photograph. Then he said, Laura was my sister. I looked from him to my mother. What does she have to do with me? Robert answered quietly. She gave birth to you. I don't remember falling. I remember Daniel catching my arm. I remember my father saying my name. And I remember staring at my mother, waiting for her to laugh. She didn't. Tell me he's lying. Margaret's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Tell me, she whispered. I'm sorry. The parking lot seemed to tilt. Robert began explaining, but I barely heard him. Laura Vale had been 21 when I was born. She and my mother had worked together. Laura was unmarried. My mother was 26 and already married to Thomas. Laura had no money, no stable home, and according to Robert, she had been frightened. She wanted to keep you, he said. My mother snapped. You don't know that. Robert turned on her. I was her brother, and I was there when she couldn't feed herself. They stared at each other with 40 years of anger between them. Daniel guided me toward a bench. I looked at my father. Did you know? His silence answered. You both knew? Dad sat beside me. We raised you from 3 days old. That wasn't my question. Yes. I pulled my hand away. Were you ever going to tell me? My mother said. We wanted to. When? No answer. When I was 18? Silence. 21? Nothing. 30? My father looked down. My mother started crying. You were ours. That sentence made me furious. I am not a piece of property. I didn't mean it that way. You spent 41 years deciding what I was allowed to know about myself. Robert stepped closer. There is more, my mother shouted. No. Everyone went still. Robert stared at her. You still haven't told her? My mother's face collapsed. Told me what? She shook her head. Robert looked at my father. Thomas? Dad whispered. Margaret, tell me. My father rubbed both hands over his face. Then he said, Laura didn't give you up willingly. I looked at my mother. What does that mean? My mother's lips trembled, and for the first time I saw something I had never seen in her before. Shame. Laura had struggled after I was born. She had postpartum depression, though nobody called it that in 1985. She cried constantly. She missed work. Sometimes she left me with my mother for hours. My mother became convinced Laura was unfit. Maybe she was. Maybe temporarily. That uncertainty would become the moral wound at the center of everything. My mother helped Laura apply for financial assistance. She also helped her prepare documents. Laura trusted her. That was Laura's weakness. She trusted people when she was overwhelmed because decisions frightened her. One of those documents gave temporary guardianship to Margaret and Thomas. Temporary. My mother made it permanent. How? I asked. Robert answered. Laura signed papers she didn't understand. My mother shook her head. She understood enough. She thought Emily would live with you for 6 months. She was unstable. She got better. After disappearing for 4 months, she was in treatment. She abandoned her child. She was sick. They were no longer arguing about me. They were arguing about who had been allowed to define Laura's worst year as her entire life. I turned to my father. You let this happen? He looked destroyed. I thought your mother was right. That was his weakness, loyalty. He had believed Margaret because questioning her would have meant risking the family they had created. Robert said Laura returned when I was 11 months old, healthy, working, wanting me back. My mother refused. Laura hired an attorney. Then something happened that stopped the case. What? Nobody answered. Robert looked toward my father. My father's eyes filled with tears. We paid her. I stared at him. What? Not for you, my mother said it too quickly. Robert laughed bitterly. That's exactly what it was, my father explained. Laura had debts from treatment, no insurance, no savings. My parents offered to pay everything and give her $10,000 if she withdrew the custody challenge. In 1986, that was enough money to start over. Laura accepted. I felt physically sick. She sold me? Robert shook his head. No, my mother whispered. That's what I told myself. Everyone turned toward her. She looked at me. I told myself that if she took the money, she didn't deserve you. Her voice broke. But I was wrong. That confession should have been enough. It wasn't. Because there was still one question. Where is Laura now? Robert looked at the ground. My mother began crying harder, and I knew before anyone said it. She died? Robert nodded. When? 1998. I was 13. How? Cancer. The world seemed very far away. Then Robert said something that made me look up. She wrote to you every birthday. My mother closed her eyes, and I knew she had seen every letter. We left the wedding reception before the cake was cut. I didn't care. By then, I wasn't sure whether I had just gotten married or discovered that my entire childhood had been staged around a secret. We went to my parents' house. My mother didn't argue when I asked for the letters. She went upstairs and returned with a white cardboard box, 41 envelopes, one for every birthday until Laura died. Then several letters Robert had written afterward. My mother had kept all of them. That somehow made it worse. You read them? Some. Why keep them? She looked at me. Because every year I thought I would finally tell you. But you didn't. No. I opened the letter marked Emily, age 7. Laura wrote about seeing a photograph of me in the local newspaper after I'd won a school art contest. She wrote that she was proud. She wrote that she still painted. She wrote, I hope Margaret tells you one day that I loved you before she did. I stopped reading. My mother covered her mouth. Did you hate her? Margaret shook her head. No. Then why? The answer came slowly. Because I was afraid if you knew her, you would choose her. There it was. Not love, not protection, fear. My mother had built 41 years of silence around the terror that biology could undo motherhood. It was selfish. It was also painfully human. Then Daniel found something at the bottom of the box, a sealed envelope, different handwriting, my father's, on the front. For Emily, only if Robert ever comes back. I looked at Dad. What is this? He went pale. Margaret whispered, Thomas? My father stared at the envelope. I hoped you would never see that. My anger returned instantly. Apparently that's our family motto. I opened it. Inside was a single page and a DNA report dated 1999. I read the first line, then the second. Then I looked at my father. No. He started crying. Margaret grabbed the paper. Her eyes widened. What did you do? For the first time that night, my mother looked genuinely surprised. And that was when I realized the biggest secret hadn't belonged to her. The DNA test compared Thomas Carter to a preserved blood sample taken from Laura during cancer treatment. Probability of biological paternity relationship to Laura's child, 99.8%. I read it 3 times, then I laughed. Not because anything was funny, because my brain had nowhere else to go. Dad? He covered his face. My mother stood completely still. Robert looked as shocked as I felt. What does this mean? Daniel asked. I already knew. I just didn't want to say it. My father did. I'm your biological father. My mother's knees nearly gave out. Robert grabbed the back of a chair. I stared at the man who had raised me. The man I had believed was my adoptive father for less than 2 hours. He wasn't. He was my father, my real father. But the relief lasted maybe 1 second. Then came the obvious question. You slept with Laura? My mother turned toward him. Her expression was terrifyingly calm. Thomas nodded. Once. When? My mother asked. Before Emily was born. You told me she was just a coworker. She was. You slept with the woman whose child I later adopted? Dad looked sick. I didn't know Emily was mine. Robert stepped forward. You knew Laura was pregnant. She told me the father was someone else. Robert laughed. She told everyone that because you were married. My mother slapped my father. The sound echoed through the room. For 46 years, she had defended him reflexively. Now the truth had finally reached the one place loyalty could not protect. I sat down. Suddenly, every part of my life had changed again. My mother hadn't simply taken another woman's baby, she had unknowingly adopted her husband's daughter. My father had helped raise his own biological child without knowing she was his. Laura had allowed him to believe I belonged to another man. Every adult in the story had hidden something. Every secret had been justified as protection, and every one had eventually become a weapon. "How did you find out?" I asked. Dad pointed to the report. "When Laura died, Robert contacted me." Robert nodded slowly. "Laura told me before she died that Thomas might be Emily's father. My father had ordered a private test using a stored medical sample with the estate's permission. The result came back positive." "And you didn't tell Mom?" "No." Margaret looked at him with pure disbelief. "You let me carry all that guilt alone." He started toward her. She stepped back. "Don't." Then I understood something else. Why did Robert come today? Everyone turned toward him. He looked at me. "Because your father asked me to." My father closed his eyes. "What?" Robert removed an envelope from inside his coat. "Thomas called me 3 months ago," my father whispered. "Robert, you said if you lost your nerve, I had permission." I looked at Dad. Permission for what? Robert handed me the envelope. Inside was a medical report, my father's name, diagnosis, pancreatic cancer, stage 4. My wedding suddenly made sense. The tears, his shaking hand, his insistence on walking me down the aisle, even though his back had been hurting. He hadn't been emotional because his daughter was getting married. He had been saying goodbye. My father had known for 4 months that he was dying. He told nobody, not me, not Daniel, not even my mother, because Thomas Carter's greatest weakness had always been loyalty, and now, twisted by fear, it had become secrecy. He wanted to die with the truth still buried. But something about my wedding changed his mind. Maybe watching me build a new family made him understand what secrets had done to ours. He called Robert. He told him everything, and he made him promise to come. "If I tell her myself," Dad had said, "I may lose my courage when I see her." Robert looked at me. "He didn't bring me here to destroy your wedding." He glanced at my father. "He brought me here because he was finally trying to stop lying." I looked at Dad. "You could have told me. I know. Before today. I know. Before I was 41. His voice cracked. "I know." There was nothing satisfying about it. No dramatic excuse. No clever justification. Just an old man realizing that every delay had become another betrayal. My mother sat across from him. Her anger had changed. It wasn't gone. It had simply become grief. "You let me think I stole another man's child." Thomas whispered, "I thought the truth would destroy you." She laughed through tears. "You always thought silence was kindness." "No," I said. They both looked at me. "That was all of you." The room went quiet. Laura hid my father's identity. My mother hid my adoption. My father hid his affair and the DNA result. Robert waited decades because Laura had asked him not to interfere while she was alive. Daniel hid Robert's visit because he wanted to protect our wedding, and I had spent my life pretending I valued truth more than comfort. When the truth was, I had avoided asking certain questions because I liked the family story I already had. Nobody was innocent. That was the hardest part. There was no villain to hate cleanly, just frightened people making decisions for one another. My father died 11 weeks later. Before he died, my mother visited him every day. She did not forgive him quickly. I respected her for that. Love does not require immediate forgiveness. Sometimes forgiveness earned too easily is just another form of denial. Robert stayed in my life. He showed me photographs of Laura. He gave me her paintings. One hangs in my living room now, a small farmhouse beneath a gray sky. In the corner, almost hidden, she painted a little girl in a red coat. Robert said she painted it when I was 6. Daniel and I stayed married. Our wedding became a family story for very different reasons than we expected. Our first anniversary was quiet. No large party, no speeches, just dinner at home. At one point, Daniel raised his glass. To no more secrets. I smiled. That's impossible. He frowned. I continued. Everyone has secrets. I looked at my mother, who was sitting across from us. The important thing is knowing when a secret stops belonging only to you. My mother reached across the table and took my hand, and for once she didn't try to explain herself. For most of my life, I thought the opposite of truth was a lie. Now I think sometimes the opposite of truth is love mixed with fear. My mother loved me and was afraid of losing me. My father loved our family and was afraid the truth would destroy it. Laura loved me and was afraid she couldn't give me the life I deserved. Robert loved his sister and was afraid breaking his promise would betray her. Daniel loved me and was afraid one stranger could ruin our wedding. Every one of them made a choice they believed would protect someone, and every choice had a price. The stranger at my wedding did not destroy my family. The secrets had already done that slowly. He simply opened the door, and sometimes the person who ruins the perfect story is the only person giving you a chance to build an honest one. If you were in my place, who would you find hardest to forgive? My mother for hiding my birth? My father for hiding the affair and DNA test? Laura for never telling me who my father was? Or would you believe they were all trying, in flawed ways, to protect someone they loved? Write what you think in the comments. Think in the comments. Think in the comments. Think in the